Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweet Combat Season 1, Episode 22. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously we pick up with the squad of Tien, Yanan, Zhao Mi, and Hao making their way to Macau. And they actually show up there, they get into their hotel, and then they kind of take a trip around. The sad thing is, obviously picking up what the last episode had Yan on that, she's very low spirited, and obviously she's trying to like pretend like not everything's fine, but it's kind of sad because it's like once again where those circumstances are. And since I'm already on Yanan, I'll get to it in a second then. What I thought was interesting is the little exhibition match, because I didn't think the exhibition match was going to be what it is. I mean, it makes sense what it is, because what it is in the show is exactly what it is in the webtoon, except it wasn't a separate thing. It was actually part of the same tournament. Like after the preliminaries are done, Zhao Mi and, well, not Zhao Mi, Dao Dao and Mu Young have an exhibition match in the tournament. So it's interesting, like, because I guess in my head I thought they'd be fighting different opponents, and I think it's interesting too how they tweak it too. Like I said, it's not like a 1-to-1, but for the most part it kind of is. The only difference is that because they're pitted against each other in the TV show, I guess it was a known thing because no one really said anything. But in the webtoon, the only person that was kind of left out of the loop was Jaegu, because remember, like, just like Tien is Yanan and Zhao Mi's coach. In the webtoon, once again, he was Jaegu is Dao Dao and Mu Young's coach, and neither one of them told Jaegu that they were fighting each other for the exhibition match. So that kind of like took him by surprise. He didn't know until the last minute because they actively went out of their way to not tell him. But like I said, other than that little element to it, the rest of it goes the same, except for the end result, which I think is interesting. In the exhibition match in the TV show, they are. It's like, oh, like it's an unclear, like it freeze frames on like Zhao Mi's attack, but it's unclear who won. In fact, the judges are like, yeah, you're pretty even. In the webtoon, Mu Young, that's who Yanan's character is based on, is the one who she squeaks out a victory. It's pretty close. They both, it could have gone either way, but she ends up winning, and I think, if I remember correctly, Dao Dao even kind of throws in the towel part, like, near the end, because it's like, yeah, I've kind of run out of steam, and I know, like, you have the advantage, you've won, you know, but it was a pretty close match. But it's interesting that the show chose to make it so, no, there is no definitive winner, even though, like, in the webtoon, it is it is Mu Young who wins. So just thought that was kind of an interesting little detail. But even the whole element, and I think I referenced this in earlier episodes about how Mu Young, because she knows Dao Dao's moves enough, incorporated kicks into her fighting too, just like Zhao Mi incorporated. I keep doing that because I'm switching between the names so much, I'm confusing myself. Yanan learned kicks and mixed that in because she's fighting Zhao Mi. Zhao Mi learned punches in preparation for this fight. So I even love Tien kind of giving the kind of rundown of it and how this is all going to play out, their strengths and weaknesses type of thing, and how it's just kind of nodding along. I thought they were going to add like a immediate beat of him being like, oh, but no, it's just kind of like him being like following along as well. It's like, oh, it's interesting, you know? So that was kind of like the main purpose of that. But switching over to Yanan, as I was going to talk about earlier, we do get the reveal of, as you would figure, we didn't get it last episode, but it's like, yeah, of course they're going to flash back to it and give you the full context of what Zhao Feng said. Because Zhao Feng only had one thing she could have said to Yanan in that moment, which once again, she sucks for doing that. Once again, she's heartbroken, she's angry, because it's also like, oh, the only reason why you chose Yanan is because like you wanted to learn this technique. So there's a lot influencing her doing something vindictive and nasty like that. And it sucks because like I said, like Yanan is kind of like, whereas like Zhao Mi is like that bubbly personality, Yanan kind of has like hers, like she always seems so like not bothered by anything. But the problem is she let herself believe like, wait, Guanyan like really likes me, and especially with all these different texts, which he got up to number 82 in this episode. She was starting to believe like, oh, like you actually do legitimately like me. It's good. But now like all of that's been tarnished because she's like, of course, there's only one reason why you like me. The other 99 don't exist. And she, I don't know if just straight up deletes his contact or like blocks him. I think it's just she straight up just deletes his contact, and it's like it's so heartbreaking because we know, and her father would tell her the same thing. It's like he's the one that came up with that. Like it was actually her father who came up with that condition for him learning the death strike, but Guanyan chose not to go down that route because once again his feelings for her are so genuine. And it's like because you also never get to see, like, you never see like Yana, we've never seen her like low like she is right now, you know. And once again, she's not as hyper as Zhao Mi, but it's still like there is kind of like this steadfastness that she has where it almost seems like everything rolls off of Yanan. But it's like this hurts. She's legitimately heartbroken. Not the only one that kind of walks away heartbroken in this episode. We'll get to that in a second. But it just felt so bad in that moment, you know? So, and it makes you wonder, when is Guanyan going to find out the truth? You know, because he's kind of going out of his way. He hasn't really been around Yanan in person, but he probably will eventually, and she'll probably tell him the truth. Or maybe Zhao Feng will feel bad about what she did eventually, and then tell Guanyan the truth of what she. I'm so curious to see how that plays out. So we have that element to it. Speaking of the other side of the broken heart and everything, obviously, I thought it was so interesting because of the exhibition match. It made Feng Yu like. I think she was still at the airport because once again her plane there was technical difficulty, so she was going to have to take a different flight. But so it kind of went the way I thought so. But yeah, she ends up going to Macau. She sneaks off and goes to Macau. No one knew she was there. The only person she ends up meeting up with is Tien. So not even Yanan. Not unless she told Yanan, but Yanan wanted to keep it a secret. But yeah, like Zhao Mi, none of them knew until like Queen's brother was calling people looking for her. And I love that like Zhao Mi kind of got suspicious because it's like, where could Feng Yu be? And then immediately went to check on Tien. It's like, oh, he's not here either. But to be fair, he was hanging out with his boss, his previous boss, back from Macau at the time. And that boss was like, oh, like there's this girl. It's like, yeah, she's very beautiful. She's pretty. She's tall. I actually looked it up because I was actually curious. I was like, how tall is the actress who plays? Feng Yu? She's 5'8". You know, so that was, yeah, because like when you like, once again, I don't know what like the average height in China is, you know. I mean, I think globally, I think that is a pretty like above average height for a lady, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm like, you can tell she's like fairly tall, like it's once again in like especially like standing next to a lot of people. But either way, tangents and all that aside, because even his boss was like, oh, like, so, like, did you pursue her? Did she pursue you? And he was like, nah, like, there's no, like, she would never pursue me. Which I think it's funny, because it's like, technically you were pursuing each other. That's why he was like, yeah, we kind of realized we were on the same wavelength. So I thought that was kind of nice. But yeah, like, circling on to Zhao Mi, like, afterwards, Tien came back, and Zhao Mi's like, oh, okay, oh, you went to meet with your boss, cool. As long as you weren't having some secret rendezvous with Feng Yu, which is so interesting because he literally has one with her after this conversation. Say funny, but it's actually kind of heartbreaking. But in that moment, like, she's like, right, let's go shopping, let's get all these gifts. We should get one for your boss at the, you know, the ice cream shop that you work at, or get one for a gift for your brother and your sister. Oh, how about a gift for your boss at the car wash? And Tien's like, I would rather you didn't, because it's back to that conversation of, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but she's like, yeah, I just want to do it just to be helpful. But he's like, I know why you're doing this, because the way you feel about me. And for him, it's just that conversation again of, I don't want to take it like me, like I'll be taking, if I continue, if I let you do this, then I am continuing to like, it's a douchey thing of like, I know you're doing this because of how you feel about me. Like, I know you like me, and it's not right when I don't feel that same way about you. It's disingenuous for me to let you continue doing things like that. And it's like, I know the reason why you're doing it, going above and beyond for me. And it's like, he's like, there is that thing of, there's just certain things that can't be repaid no matter how many gifts. And it's just, for him, it's like, I can't reciprocate your feelings, and it's not right for me to kind of take advantage of all that you do for me. Like, he brought this up before, and he's bringing it up again, and it's like, I'm sorry, Tien. I mean, Tien's like, I'm sorry, Zhao Mi. And it's like, thank you for everything, and I'm sorry, you know. And she walks away. She's like, it's okay. And so her and Hao, he had just gotten back from getting some food, and she's like, come eat with me. He's like, I'm full already. And she's like, all right, let's have something delivered here. And so she's just like, whole bunch of like, last time she didn't get drunk. Well, she got drunk off the atmosphere, but once again, like, she has an image to uphold, so she didn't actually drink anything. But this time, like, there was a whole bunch of alcohol in front of her, and she's breaking down, and it's like, once again, like, you feel bad for Xiao Mi. I think it's a lot. You feel worse for Dao Dao in the webtoon because it's also like, once again, I talked about it, how that scene played out previously when she walked home, when Tien kind of turned her down. That situation takes a like more like depressing turn in the webtoon. So it's like, you know, and even this, luckily, because that was her on her own, which I'm glad they didn't adapt that, because that's depressing. I'll go ahead and talk about it. Basically, Dao Dao's in such a random state. These girls, like, basically beat her up and take shit from her. Like, obviously, like, even if she can't fight back because of school rules, she didn't care. She was so despondent at the time that literally some girls, like, robbed her and beat her up. Because it's like, oh, could you buy alcohol for us? And they're like, and because Dao Dao was so despondent, they're like, hey, we're talking to you, and they smacked her around. That's why I'm like, it's such a heartbreaking thing, because they beat her up and she didn't fight back, because she was just like, she was already beaten down because of Jaegu, like, turning her down. She was so heartbroken. So that's why I was kind of glad they didn't adapt that, because it's a dark thing that happens in the webtoon. I mean, and also let's also, like, in the webtoon, this is also another thing of like, I doubt they're going to adapt this, but like, there's a pretty dark thing that happens to Dao Dao. Like, nothing happen, but like, she gets involved in a situation that's pretty dire and dark. I don't think they're going to adapt that, but I'm like, yeah, probably pretty dark for this show, so I don't see them adapting it, but I'll probably talk about it later on, like, once you get closer to the end of the series, because this particular thing happens fairly close to the end of the series. But either way, so like I said, like, I feel bad for Xiao Mi, because it is a thing of like, she's heartbroken, she's crying, and it's just like, am I annoying? Which Hao's like, I mean, you can be a little bit, but he's also like, yeah, that's one of your bubbly personality elements. It's just like, right, like, no one could dislike you, but for her, it's like, then why can't Tien like me? Why can't the person I like me? And Hao says, like, I get it, but it's like, right, just like no one can control how you feel about someone, you can't control the way someone feels about anyone else. That's not how liking someone works. It's just like, sometimes it is sadly a situation of you like someone and you just don't like you back. Because this is the person she's pursued wholeheartedly. Because she had brought this up last time, like, during this thing. Because it's not like, once again, it's not like she got turned down by him once. She got turned down by him twice. So that's like the more gut-wrenching thing of it. Because I'm like, I don't think Jaegu turned Dao Dao down like twice. He may, like, it's kind of like she didn't let him sit. It's kind of like how Xiao Mi was like, no, you don't have to say anything. Dao Dao kind of put Jaegu in a similar situation, and he didn't really say anything. But then at one point, he does fully turn her down. And it's kind of like, it's, once again, it's like, it's basically take those two scenes of her depressed in this episode and when he turned her down previously, you basically combined them, and that's like, once again, that's like Dao Dao at her lowest, because of, like, you know, and like the scene I was referencing from the webtoon and stuff. So, but it's just kind of like, and I love that it's like, Xiao Mi is just shitting on Fangyu, being like, what's so great about her? She's cold and frosty. She's like a penguin. If you like a penguin, why can't you like me? And even Hao's like, yeah, like, you know, he's like, no, you're 100 times cuter than a penguin. He's like, if you like, you know, what's so special about Tien? He's like, if you like Tien, you might as well like me. And he's like, I meant best fighter, referencing his dog, which is kind of, you know, once again, it was already pretty obvious where this was going to go, but we are starting to see it more and more in that regard. But I also love Xiao Mi being like, don't you dare talk smack about Tien. But she's also like, right, if he's going to, like, reject me a second time, fine, I won't cook anymore. He won't get any more of my cooking anymore then, you know? Which I think for him, it sucks, but also at the same time, he is appreciative of that too, I'm sure. Because it's like, right, it makes him feel less guilty of, like, I'm taking something from you when, like, you know. But I also love the line from Hao where he was like, because obviously, like, Xiao Mi was bringing up the fact is like, yo, we're both in the same boat. Both of us like people who don't like us. But then Hao's like, yeah, I don't think it's fully the same, because he's like, I, like, Feng Yu might not like me, but I like the person I am because of how I feel about her, and, you know, I just want her to be happy. But, like, Xiao Mi's almost like a, screw that, I don't want him to be happy, shut up, I want my happiness, I want him to be happy by being happy with me, you know. It's coming from that perspective, and she's drinking a little alcohol, and it's just kind of like, oh, stop crying, Xiaomi. It's just like, yeah. But like I said, you see, like I said, I already figured that's the direction that was going to go. Once again, Hao's kind of an amalgamation of characters, so there is another character that Xiaomi's equivalency in the webtoon, Dao Dao, she does like get together with someone. Very different circumstances from Hao, because like I said, Hao doesn't, as a character, and most of who he is as a character isn't from the story. Like I said, it's just pulled from other characters, put together in one. But so there's that element. Then we also had Tien going to the fountain and making a wish, and lo and behold, as he makes that wish, who shows up? It's like perfect timing. It's like my wish was granted. It's like, I was like, this is so adorable, because they don't know how we're 21 episodes really later, and they're back at this fountain. It even comes full circle of they were across, like obviously they had their kind of not so great run in at the beginning of the series, but also they were across from each other in the fountains. They have no idea, and to see all this time later for them, because they were on, it's beautiful too, because they were on opposite sides of the fountain and they left in opposite angles of the fountain, but lo and behold, here they are all this time later on the same side of the fountain together. It's actually really beautifully framed. It's like a beautiful framing element to think about. And also, she was like, right, I'm gonna make my wish. She's like, I hope that the person I like is here, and the coin kind of the way it flies, Tien's able to grab it because it didn't fully go towards the fountain, and he's just like, yeah, your wish has been granted. I was like, that's smooth as hell, my dude. And then hanging out together, super adorable. And they come across a rabbit. Well, really quickly before we get to that, there's actually this sad thing too, because Macau, it's actually, it's sad but also beautiful, but it's also going to go back to being sad, is the element of Macau was a very complicated thing for Tien, because he even said this, well, this was more so about Xiaomi. He was like, yeah, you can run but you can't hide, and he's like, I think I did the right thing when it came to the Xiaomi of it all. But this place was painful for him. There's a lot of painful memories. Same thing for Feng Yu. She lost someone very important. It's like, right, they still haven't connected those threads yet. But, once again, that's going to be a big wrinkle. And how that plays out and how that affects things is going to be interesting, along with other things that are going to complicate things between Tien and Feng Yu. But the fact is that it's right, neither one of them ever thought they'd be coming back here under these circumstances, but they're able to, despite the bad history they have with Macau, it's like we get to have some good memories associated with too. So it's a lot of stuff coming full circle in a lot of ways. But yeah, them hanging out together and shopping and coming across the bunny and everything. And she was even like, right, it reminds me of your buddy suit, which I was like, does Tien know that she knows about that? I don't think that's come up in the show. Not unless that's a conversation that happened off screen, but we never got that. Oh yeah, Tien, Feng Yu knows that it was you in the rabbit suit, and she knows that once again, I thought he would have had some dialogue about that, but I guess it's just either he just let that pass, or technically that was something that was happening off screen. But I figured as much that he was going to get her that bunny, because he was actually I'm grateful for that bunny suit, because he's now I know that you were kind of willing to tell bunnies anything. But he got her the gift as kind of a farewell gift, as they walked around that thing 7 times just to kind of spend a little more time together, so that she can go back to home, take the ferry to Hong Kong so she can make her flight to Dubai. So, which that's a whole other can of worms in itself, because we see what Shi Wei's approach to this is. Now, he still might go about things the way that Yi Chen was handling things, let's rough up Tien. That still could be an approach of hire people to do that. Still a viable option. Didn't even cross my mind that he'd use her grandfather against her. So he's like, yeah, there's a guy that's getting close to her. It's he's trying to make it seem like Tien's after her money, he's not, he has bad intentions and yada yada yada, and gives, because it's yeah, her grandfather already does enough to try and separate her from the school and combat sports. So given the opportunity, and that's why I'm going to be curious to see how they that's why I'm saying our introduction to her grandfather in the show, they've taken a more serious tone with him versus how they portray him in the webtoon, and it's interesting too, because like I said, Jaegu and her grandfather's relationship, their dynamic is very comedic based. It's very it's kind of a comedy duo, one's the straight man and one person's kind of doing the funny man bit. It's kind of like that dynamic, not intentionally. Jagu doesn't do it intentionally, but that's how it's like written. I doubt they're going to do that, but it's probably going to lean more into the drama side of things, just because that's how the character's kind of like written and done so in the TV show. So. But yeah, like Shiwei, you're just like, oh, you smug bastard, you know exactly what you're doing. So once again, he brought up weaknesses. Like once again, what are Tien's weaknesses? It's like, well, it's his siblings. So like I said, there's one front that you can attack him on, but you can also attack him on this front, because now you don't actually have to do anything to Tien. All you have to do is let her grandfather know, and he can like cause problems. He can make Tien potentially disappear and stuff like that. He's gonna look into Tien himself, but like I said, I think that's where we get into like the correlation with the webtoon, and like that's how they got to meet each other, like officially like have conversation, because he was a waiter at the restaurant, but like her grandfather's not going to remember. Plus he also walked past her like during the whole theme park situation. He walked past Tien, they locked eyes, but he probably won't remember until he sees Tien, and it's like, wait, I've met you before, like twice before, haven't I? So that'll probably come up. So, but that's also going to be the complicated thing of, he's probably going to be the one to look into Tien's circumstances, and that's probably when he'll find out about the Uncle G situation and who Tien's father was, and also be like, oh, you're from a poor background, you're just trying to get with my granddaughter just for money purposes, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. So that's probably where Fong Yu will probably learn the truth about what happened to Uncle G, and it was Tien's father. Like some of that will probably come up because of her grandfather investigating him, type of thing. And maybe even using that as leverage to keep Tien away from Fong Yu, and he probably distanced himself from her because of that, maybe. Kind of like a Romeo and Juliet-esque thing, because there is a little bit of Romeo and Juliet to there. I mean, it depends on where you pull from. Like, I was about to say West Side Story, but it's like, not quite, But I think Romeo and Juliet would probably be the more adept, maybe, example to potentially use, So there's all of that. And we also get a little update with Yanan's father, who went to visit Mama Hao, who's looking after Tien's siblings. It's actually really sad too, because like he wants to try his best, but the whole he keeps sticking his own foot in his mouth. First and foremost, he's got in his head of like, oh yeah, I'll bring this like medicinal thing, and she'll take off her shoe and her sock, and I'll be able to confirm like the birthmarks on her feet. He's like, yeah, it's going to work out, but it kind of got blown up in his face multiple times because Tien's siblings call him out like, yo, you were the guy that was cheering for Sun Hao and our brother's defeat. You're a meanie. So it's like, oh, you guys have got great memories. So not letting anything he says go. It's like, oh, so who? Oh, these are Tien's siblings. So like, yeah, my Yanan's go, like, cause oh yeah, Yanan says she's going to that thing. It's like, yeah, Tien's with her as well. So because of that, I'm looking after the kids. It's like, oh, he's like, my wife is exactly the same way. She found stray puppies, she'd have to bring them home. And it's like, we're not stray animals. He's like, oh, of course not. And Mama Hao's like, yes, Yanan's dad is speaking carelessly. So, and now it's like, damn, I kind of screwed the pooch on that. He's like, now I got to come back, one day when the kids aren't here. But he's like, but what excuse will I be able to use then? Because I think for him, it's like, the longer I wait, because he kind of abandoned the whole, like, oh, giving you this thing. Because I guess he's like, I can't really use that as an excuse anymore. Can't really use that as an excuse, especially because I've already apologized. And that was supposed to be part of, like, the 1-2 punch combo for my apology. So can't really use that helping out with your ankle and your leg and foot situation anymore. So he's looking for an excuse to come back, put a little too much spice on the chow mein, and ends up burning his tongue. And which, hey, the kids have a better opinion of you because they were laughing at you, like how much pain you were in. So that did not go the way he thought it was, but I'm glad we are getting that continuation of that storyline. So some very, very interesting developments all around. It's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.